Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for attending this webinar. The subject of this presentation is how to move your data into the fast lane with Trimble Positions Desktop. This has been a new wizard that Trimble introduced just recently, and it actually supports a lot of different workflows, regardless of the data collection software that you're using. So I think you'll find this very interesting, especially if you work in a shop that has multiple data collection programs. My name is Jim Lom. I'm with Electronic Data Solutions. I work out of our Portland office. A little bit about this webinar is going to be about 35 minutes. We'll have plenty of time at the end of this webinar for questions and answers. I did mute everyone's line so that we can stifle any background noise that may occur. And during this webinar, I do have a couple of polling questions that I'll ask the audience. And if you'll take the time to answer those questions, that would be greatly appreciated, and we can share those results with the entire group. And then finally, this webinar is being recorded so that if you know anyone in your organization that was not able to attend, you can certainly refer them to the recording, which should be available about 48 hours after the end of this webinar. Okay, with that, a little bit about our company. Electronic Data Solutions has been in business for 26 years, and during that time, we specialize in mobile computing and field data collection applications. We currently offer a wide variety of hardware and software, and everything that we sell has the optional support of technical support, training, and repair services. Our home office is in Jerome, Idaho, which is a small town in south central Idaho, and we currently have 26 employees in 8 different offices in 6 different western states. We're very proud to represent industry leaders. We've been providing Trimble navigation mapping equipment for many years, and more recently, some survey products as well. We are Esri business partners and software developers. We offer a lot of different Juniper systems, rugged data collectors, and submersible field computers. We've been a laser technology dealer for about 25 years, and that company is out of Denver, Colorado, selling some of the most accurate lasers in the country. We recently picked up a new line of tablet PCs by Mobile Demand, and they've got about 200 different configurations of tablet computers for the field, and you can get those in Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows 10 operating systems. We do have a couple of water quality specialists in our company that specialize in situ and teledyne ISCO products. Those are water quality instrumentation and water monitoring systems. In addition, we have a software development department that specializes in creating custom software. One of our most recent projects was creating a custom program for the Iowa DOT and helping them upgrade their guardrail system throughout the state. And then finally, we've created a couple of programs like Field Seeker that help vector control districts monitor their mosquito populations. Finally, we offer ArcGIS online services, and we have been giving several different seminars throughout the Northwest on how to help municipalities move their GIS data over to the local government information model, and then how to take advantage of some of the free apps that Esri makes available. So our services is to help you integrate all that into your new system. Okay, a little bit about how Trimble Positions works. In your geodatabase in your office, of course, you've got the contribution of other data, including GPS data. You're accessing that information via ArcGIS. And underneath ArcGIS, there is a license of Trimble Positions Desktop, which is really the main subject of this webinar. When it comes time to send data out to the field, you can then, of course, check data directly out to ArcPad or ArcGIS Mobile. And there actually is a Trimble Positions extension that works underneath each of those programs. They are distinct programs, but Trimble Positions properly handles the collection and management of the GPS data. But the new features of this wizard is quite remarkable. You can now send data directly out from ArcGIS to TerraFlex. And TerraFlex, of course, is Trimble's new app that works in phones and tablets. You can also send data directly out to TerraSync. So you can see where this new program actually supports up to 6 different distinct workflows, regardless of the data collection program that your folks are using. Once the data is collected, it can be brought directly back into your GIS. You check it in to your geodatabase, and once checked in, you can then apply the very important differential corrections, which removes about 99% of the error in your GPS data. You can query and analyze the data, and then you can also validate position accuracy. The cool thing about this is it allows you to use GNSS statistics to actually make editing decisions in the ArcMap environment. Some of the updates that have taken place this summer was the addition of supporting up to 6 different workflows. There's also a new automated session processor. Some of you that may have used GPS Pathfinder Office in the past may remember the batch processor. The batch processor was a way that you could automate several different functions. You could bring the data automatically into your PC, have it automatically corrected, and then have it automatically exported. This session processor is much the same. You can now directly ingest data from Trimble TerraSync. You now have a nice seamless interface between ArcGIS and TerraFlex. And the new exciting thing is that when you're using ArcPad and ArcGIS Mobile, it now supports highly accurate elevation data. Now, this is something that we've been asking Trimble for quite some time. And you may remember in the early days when it came down to choosing what kind of data collection software that you wanted to use in your Trimble device. If you wanted to get highly accurate three-dimensional data, then you would have to use TerraSync. And in those days, both ArcPad and ArcGIS Mobile would produce very good horizontal accuracy, but it did not produce good vertical accuracy. Well, with the addition of this new feature, when you bring your data back into your geodatabase when using ArcPad or ArcGIS Mobile, then it actually applies a geoid transformation to your altitude data, and you end up with extremely good mean sea level elevations. So in short, you can now use any one of 3 programs to get highly accurate three-dimensional data. The new Trimble Positions desktop also now supports ArcGIS Online hosted feature services for real-time workflows, and that's when you're using ArcGIS Mobile. And then, of course, it's got support for the current version, ArcMap 10.3. So here's our first polling question. The first polling question is, and I'll bring this up on the screen in just a moment, when I collect field data, my team and I use one of the following programs. So when that pops up on your screen, just take a few moments and answer that question if you would. Looks like almost everyone has voted. I'll just give you a few more seconds. Okay, let me close and share this poll. Well, that's pretty simple. Looks like 100% of you are using ArcPad. That makes perfect sense. That's really a very popular software program. And for those of you that are using ArcPad, now you can actually obtain tremendously good elevation data when using this new Trimble Positions desktop program. Okay, so some of our options for deployment of this new software is you can just purchase the off-the-shelf software suite. And when you get the entire suite, it includes all these extensions. Now, granted, you're not going to need all of them because you're probably going to use one or the other, but it does include Trimble Positions for ArcPad, Positions for ArcGIS Mobile, Positions for the Mobile Project Center. And you're only going to use the Mobile Project Center if you're using ArcGIS Mobile. It does support the plugin for TerraFlex, and of course you get a license of the desktop software. Today it also includes the custom application so that you can add the power of Trimble Positions into either a focused app or a custom application based on the Esri ArcGIS software development kit for Windows. So it's pretty interesting that you can design your own program and you can still add the power of Trimble Positions to that software. Currently, the supported platforms and technologies are Esri ArcPad 10.2, ArcGIS for desktop 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3. And for those of you that may not remember, when Esri went from ArcGIS 10 to 10.1, that's when Trimble transformed from GPS Analyst to Trimble Positions Desktop. So that's why it only goes back to 10.1. That's the oldest version of ArcGIS that is supported by Trimble Positions. It also supports Windows Mobile, Project, the Project Center, and also you can do any of this in any of those geodatabase environments, a personal, a file, or an enterprise geodatabase. In the Trimble world, it currently supports the Geo 7 series, the Geo 5 series, all of the Juno 5s, all of the Juno 3s, and even some of the earlier Juno SBs. There's also standard and enhanced versions, and the enhanced version is simply a Trimble designation, meaning it's got a higher accuracy GPS chip inside. The Juno 5 and the Yuma 2 both come with regular and enhanced versions. It also supports the older Trimble 6T and 6H receivers. Those have been discontinued in favor of the new R2. And at the end of this webinar, we will talk a little bit about the Trimble R1 and the R2, just so you know what those are. Supports the Trimble Pro XRT, the old Nomad 900G, and those have been discontinued, but in favor of the new Nomad 1050 series. And that's got an enhanced operating system, an enhanced processor, and enhanced RAM. It also supports the Yuma 2 rugged tablet PC, both the regular and enhanced versions. So virtually any of these newer Trimble receivers are supported by Trimble Positions Desktop. The licensing is pretty straightforward. You can do individual installations, licensing on Positions Desktop, Positions Mobile, or Positions ArcPad. You can do floating license support on Trimble Positions Desktop so that if you're on a computer network, the license can reside on the server, and anybody on that particular computer network will have access to that license, but only one at a time if you only have one license. And then finally, and this is a relatively new thing actually, is that you can now have a floating license for a mobile license like ArcGIS Positions Mobile. So that's kind of a new thing where it used to be if you had a handheld device, you had to have one license for each device. But for this particular program, you can actually move it between devices very easily. So the demo software is a kind of a nice offer from Trimble. Many of you are aware of the fact that if you're looking for a piece of Trimble mapping and GIS software, you actually can get a 14-day license to try it out free of charge. And during this 14-day period, you have a fully functional list of programs that you can use, the desktop, the mobile, and the ArcPad extension. At the end of that 14-day period, you do have a 14-day stand-down period, which means you have to take a break. And then if you want another 14-day license, at the end of that stand-down period, you can get another 14-day license. So the idea is to give you the opportunity to try this program complete with our technical support in the meantime before you make any purchasing decisions. This is maybe a little known fact too. For those of you that may still be using Trimble Pathfinder Office, if your license of Trimble Pathfinder Office is current with your maintenance, then you can get a free conversion from Pathfinder Office to the Trimble Positions suite. Now let's say you have a version of Pathfinder Office 3.1, which is quite a few years old. You would have to bring that maintenance up to date, and then once that maintenance is to date, then you can actually get a free conversion to Trimble Positions. So here's a nice chart which kind of illustrates visually what the workflows are. And here are the 6 individual workflows we talked about. You can now check data out from your GIS directly to the TerraFlex Cloud. The TerraFlex Cloud is referred to as InSphere. Once your project is in the cloud, you can then sync it with your mobile device or your telephone or your iPad or your Galaxy tablet. You can check data out from your GIS directly to TerraSync. And this is one of the things that I'll be giving you a live demo on so that you can see exactly how this works. You can check your data right back out to ArcPad and Trimble Positions for ArcPad, and we'll show you that as well. And then finally, there are 3 different workflows if you incorporate ArcGIS Mobile, and that is you can check directly out to mobile, you can check directly out to ArcGIS for server, and then to mobile, or you can check right out to ArcGIS Online, and then you can sync that project with Windows Mobile automatically. And the cool thing is all of this data that's collected in the field comes directly back into your geodatabase directly through Trimble Positions. So here's our second polling question, and the second polling question is, when I apply corrections to my field data, I use what? And there are a few choices there you can choose from. Okay, so one of you is using Trimble Positions. Some of you are not correcting your data at all, which is fine. I'll share this information so you can see where we are. And, you know, many projects, of course, don't require that your data be differentially corrected, but if you do want to get better accuracy, and the environment in which you work in and the receiver that you're currently using will benefit from that, then obviously it's something that can increase the accuracy of your data. So let's hide this poll and go on to the next one. Finally, get Trimble Positions, get data confidence. This is the only program that we are aware of in the industry that actually supports all these different workflows directly between a GIS and a tablet, a phone, a Windows computer, a Windows mobile device using 4 different software programs. So with that, let me show you the live demo, and I think this will be a little more interesting to you. What I did a couple of days ago, I collected some data with ArcPad and Trimble Positions right outside my house in my own neighborhood. And you can see the aerial photograph and the GPS data on top of that. And I brought the data back into my geodatabase and I applied corrections to it. But I would like to show you the correction part as well. So part of Trimble Positions for desktop is this systems administration dialog. And this is where you create your projects, and you can elect to create any number of projects. So let me click on the project window here, and this will give you some idea. I created an ArcPad project, of course, called GPS Features. And then I associated this MXD with this particular project. And then before I went out into the field to collect data, I also created a processing profile. And for those of you that are differentially correcting your data, a processing profile is simply telling the software that when I get back to the office, I would like to use this base station to apply corrections to my field data. So in preparation for this webinar, I created a processing profile for the Portland Airport, which is PDX, and I'm using an Oregon real-time GPS network base station. Okay, so what I did, I went to the little Trimble Positions desktop dockable window, and when I did this, I basically came down to Checkout, Check-in, and I was able to select Checkout AXF to ArcPad, and this is what allowed me to create a folder that all of my data was inside. I then copied that folder over to my GPS device, I collected my data, and then I brought the data back into my GIS. So when I brought it back in, I said check in AXF from ArcPad, and here's the data file that I brought in. So once you see this on the screen, the very next step, if you follow the logical progression to the right, is to apply corrections to your data. So the normal thing you would do would be hit correct. It's telling me that I've already corrected this, but I want to correct it again just to show you how it works. So I say yes. Here's where you have to choose a processing profile. And of course, you can tell you can have as many processing profiles as you wish. I'm going to pick the PDX one, and then I simply hit the correct button. Now, if the data is available on the server, then it will automatically download the base station files, and it'll begin applying corrections to my data. It does forward and backward carrier processing, forward and backward code processing, and then it will come up with an accuracy summary that you see on the screen. So the report says that I corrected 100% of my data. My estimated accuracies based on a 68% confidence level is that 100% of my data came between 0 and 15 centimeters. So just by way of explanation, I was using a Trimble Geo7X H-star receiver, which is capable of 10 centimeters of accuracy. And because I was working in a fairly open area, and I was very careful in how I collected my data, it ends up that all of my data is better than 5 inches. So now that we have our data corrected, we can actually update the features. And what that does, it'll move the data from its uncorrected position to its corrected position. So now this is all correct. And you'll notice that we have a graphic surrounding the data that we collected, which is called the spatial extent. And the reason that Trimble Positions does this is so that if you send out 4 or 5 people to collect data on a single project, they will have a different color spatial extent around their individual data set. So you can tell who collected what. The next step to do would be to view the individual features. So if I want to select this file, I can then view the features. I can move this up a little bit so that you can sort of see all the features that I collected. And you'll notice that I have a verification thing here, which says that it's verified. And that means that I created a 1 meter requirement for each of the features I collected. And it turns out that the features all came within 1 meter or better. So everything was verified. And I've also got approximately 1/10 of a meter of accuracy, which of course is 4 inches for all my data. So here's where the power of editing comes in. If I want to pick this fire hydrant, right here, I can click on it. It highlights the hydrant right here on the map window. I can then look at the individual positions right here by viewing positions. Now, when I view positions, it's going to show me each of the individual 10 positions that I collected over that feature. All of those became mathematically averaged, of course. And if I see a position that doesn't meet my accuracy requirements, I can uncheck those positions. And if I'm unhappy with those, I can get rid of them. And then I can actually have the software re-average the remaining positions, which will then apply a spatial adjustment to my feature. So I can basically hit finish. It says, do I wish to save these edits? Yes, I do. I can then hit apply, and it will then move the feature to the correct location. So you've always been able to do something like this in Pathfinder Office for the last 15 or 20 years, but this is the first time you've been able to easily do this kind of editing in the ArcMap environment. And so this is one of the things that makes Trimble Positions Desktop very powerful. So if I'm done with my session, I can go through my edits and look at all these features. I can hit finish. And one more thing I should share with you is that I did take some photographs while I was out there. So if I use the hyperlinking tool, I can click on hyperlink. I can actually click on one of the features that actually has an image to it, and I can look at it that way. Here's a hydrant. And so forth. So normally if I'm done with this, I would basically remove this session. And when I remove the session, the spatial extent and the average of my spatial extent will disappear. In the meantime, I can just come in here and I can just, delete this so that you can just see cleaner data. But you don't really have to delete it if you want to remove the session. Now, the reason I don't want to remove the session is because now I would like to show you what you do if you're creating a TerraSync project. So we're going to take data directly out of our GIS and move it into TerraSync. So the first thing we have to do is go to the Systems Administration window, go to Projects, and here's where we can create a brand new project. So we'll hit Create. This is part of the new wizard, and you can see that we have quite a choice as to what kind of a project we can create. It supports ArcGIS for Windows Mobile, ArcPad. It even supports an ArcPad Quick project. TerraFlex, TerraSync, and then of course a custom program if you're using the software development kit. So we'll do a TerraSync project. So we'll pick TerraSync. The wizard tells me immediately that the spatial reference of my MXD file is compatible with this type of project. So I say, I'm going to start. This dialog shows us all the same feature classes in the list that I can see in my table of contents. So this gives me the opportunity to decide, do I want to send all of this information out to my TerraFlex software, or do I want to send only certain features? So I'm going to elect to send everything to TerraSync. So we'll go next. And here's a pretty powerful tool here as well. Here's where you can say that when I bring my data back in and I apply differential corrections, I would like to be able to have a horizontal estimated accuracy value in each of the attribute tables for my features. So if I would like to see that GPS statistic, I can click on Hydrant. I can say, yes, I would like to see my horizontal estimated accuracy. I would also like to impose an accuracy threshold of 1 meter. And you can type in any number you want. Same thing with lamppost. We can say, yep, we'd like to create that field in the attribute table, and we'd like to impose an accuracy threshold of 1 meter. Now, imposing this accuracy threshold doesn't mean that the person cannot collect the feature if they don't get to that level of accuracy. It simply means that you're holding to a certain standard within your GIS that says, when I get done post-processing my data, I would like to compare it to this particular standard. In this case, 1 meter. Do the same thing with sign maybe, but you get the idea. So we'll go to next. We can call our project something. I'm going to call it TerraSync Professional for TS Pro. We're using this GPS features MXD file. And we can also apply a geoid separation so that we get highly accurate elevation data by simply using this geoid model. This is geoid 12A for the United States, and this will give us highly accurate vertical data. So let's hit finish. That's all we have to do. It says we created this brand new project, and then finally we're going to take this new project and we're going to associate it with this particular map document. So we're going to set the MXD. Now the reason we do this is so that when we say OK, and when it comes time to then check the data out to TerraSync, we need to come down here and use the same wizard, but now you'll notice it doesn't say it's an ArcPad project, it's actually the TerraSync Professional project. So here's where we go to check out, check in, and we're going to send our data out to an SSF file, and that's the standard storage format file that TerraSync uses. So we'll check out, and it's reminding me that I have to select my features. So in this particular workflow, you do have to select the features that you'd like to send to TerraSync. So all we have to do is go to the select tool. I can select all the features. You'll see they're selected. And now when I check out, it's going to let me check out the entire thing. I can give this SSF file a name, and I'm going to send it directly out to a particular folder, and it saves the folder. Okay, now I'm going to use the data transfer program. Some of you are familiar with data transfer because it does come with Pathfinder Office. It's embedded in Pathfinder Office, but it's also a standalone free program that you can actually use to send your data to a Trimble receiver. So you'll notice that I'm connected to my geo, and now I can send this particular file to my geo. So I go to send and add, and I want to send a data file. I just have to browse to where I saved that file. Oops. It's the C drive, the 2015 folder, and my GPS features is right there. So I'll send that into my GPS receiver. I guess it was already in there, but I'll send it again. It says one file successfully transferred. And so now I can go directly to my GPS receiver, and I can launch TerraSync to make sure that it's actually there. So I'm going to launch TerraSync. It's going to look for satellites, of course. While it's looking for satellites, I'm going to go to the data menu. And this is normally where you go to create a brand new file. But in this case, we're going to open up an existing file. So we simply change new to existing. There's our GPS features file right there. So we have to open it. And we have to select our antenna height and the antenna type that we're using. And let's say that this is all okay. And it's now going to show me all the data that I just was looking at in ArcMap, but now I'm looking at it right here in TerraSync. So you can see the full list of the items that I collected. So let's take a look at the map. And we can just go from data to map. And there's our map. And this is my current location. Looks like I've got 5 satellites here. We may get real-time corrections when this radio stops flashing, so we'll get better accuracy. But this is the same data that I was looking at in ArcMap. So let's go collect a new point. So we can simply go to the blue dot, and we can collect a new hydrant. And so now you can see we're collecting data. I'm going to collect 10 positions, and then I can fill out the form to actually complete the collection of this feature. I can pick the color of the hydrant, pick the condition. These things came right out of the attribute table, obviously. I can pick today's date, get rid of the keyboard. Here I can select the time if I want to. Actually records the time of day. With this, I can't take a photograph automatically. I can take a photo, but it doesn't automatically connect. I can type in some comments, and this is the field that will automatically populate after I post-process my data back in the office. So I'm basically done. So I'll say, yep, I'm going to save this. And it's going to show up on the map right there where I'm located. So looks like I've got about 25 inches of accuracy. I got 9 satellites. Now my accuracy improved a little bit. So now I'm going to close the file. I'm going to go down here to the data menu. I'm going to close the file. Yes, I am. I'll then close TerraSync. And now all I have to do is bring the data using data transfer, once again, directly into my GPS, into my computer. And then we can bring it right back into ArcMap. So this time, now that I'm connected, I want to receive a file. So I'm going to go receive. I want to receive a data file. And of course, I want to get the GPS features data file. I'll transfer that right back into my computer. If I don't know where that went, and this will help some of you, you can just click on more details, and this tells you exactly where that file went. So it went into a different project folder. So that's pretty helpful. So now I can go back to ArcMap. I can now check the data back in. And since I'm in my home office here, we should see the feature somewhere around here. So let's go down to Checkout, Check In. This time we want to check in an SSF file from TerraSync. So now we have to browse to the correct folder. Looks like I'm already in the folder. So I think this is the file that I can bring in. And sure enough, there's my file. It says it checked in, waiting for correction, and the hydrant appears right there on top of my office where I'm sitting. So the next step, of course, and we can't do this right now, unfortunately, because now we need base station files from a base station server, and those files are typically not available until after the top of the hour or the next day. But you get the idea. I would then go to Correct. I would then select my PDX processing profile. I would simply hit Correct, and then I would sit back and wait for the files to come in, and it would give me an accuracy summary as to how well my data was processed. In this particular case, it's going to say it's unable to get the data because I usually have to wait for some period of time, but you get the idea. Okay, so in the meantime, we can actually view the features. I can click on this, hit View Features. It's going to show me my single hydrant that I just collected. It's going to say my accuracy was 0.862 meters. I can click on that and look at the individual positions. And there's the 10 positions that I collected. Some of them are obviously very bad, like 6 meters. I'm not going to do anything with this now, of course, because my data has not been corrected. Because you only want to do editing to data that's been processed if you're going to post-process your data. So that gives you some idea as to how this workflow supports both TerraSync and TerraFlex and ArcPad. So it's a pretty powerful program. So let's finish up the webinar here by going back to the slideshow. And this is what the R1 looks like. This was talked about in late of 2014. It was introduced to the public in March or April of 2015. So it's been on the market for a few months. It's really a sub-meter mapping system, which will allow you to connect any device that you have to almost any software that you're using. So currently the R1 supports connection to an Apple iPhone, an iPad, a Samsung Android device, excuse me, a Windows mobile device, or a Windows computer. And you can use TerraFlex, Esri Collector, ArcPad, ArcGIS Mobile, TerraSync, and a lot of other third-party programs. So basically this product allows you to add 50 centimeters of accuracy, or 20 inches, to whatever device you want to use in the field to collect data with. The R2 is a brand new product introduced to the public just a couple of weeks ago, actually. For those of you that have seen a survey system, this looks very much like a Trimble R8 or R10. So it's sort of designed based on a survey platform. But the difference is it also talks to a Windows mobile device, a Windows computer, an Apple device, or a Google Android device. And it comes in 3 different levels of accuracy. You can get it in 50 centimeter accuracy, 10 centimeter accuracy, or 1 centimeter accuracy. So the exciting thing is you can now use TerraSync or TerraFlex and get 1 centimeter of accuracy if you need that level. So that gives you some idea as to what these new products are. And both the R1 and the R2 talk to any device, and that's sort of the difference between that and all the other Trimble receivers. So here's our contact information. My colleague Jackson Bigley is in Montana. I'm in the Portland office. Chase Fly is in our Jerome, Idaho office, and Sean Minton is in our Sacramento office. So if there's any questions that come from different parts of the country and you don't happen to be in my particular area, I'll be happy to refer you to any of our guys to make sure you get well served. So with that, let me open this up to questions. I'm going to unmute everybody. So give me a second here, and I'll just open this up and see if you guys have any questions. Okay, well, if there are no questions, make sure to contact us. You've got my contact information. You can send me an email, give me a phone call, and I'll be more than happy to help any way I can. So thank you very much for attending, and I will be in the office the rest of this week except for Friday. So call me today or tomorrow, and I will be in all next week. So thanks very much for attending. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.